I then called to order the City Park Commission meeting for April 2nd. And if we could stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as written?
I motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Consent agenda. On the agenda, the consent agenda tonight is the approval of the Park Commission meeting for April 4th. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion.
Thank you. Second?
I second.
Thank you. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next on the agenda is open forum. Anyone wishing to address the Park Commission can do so at this time. Is there anyone here that would like to address? With that said, we will close the open forum and move on to the council update.
Thank you, Commission members. There were a lot of things talked about in the last couple weeks. The one that relates back to the Parks Commission the most was the conversation we had last meeting for about an hour and a half about the multiple parks that we're working through right now. I think Marty's going to give you an update on that, so I don't want to steal all of his thunder. There were some properties that were moved forward for development and use, but I stand for any questions you all may have for me.
Any questions? We will close council update and move on to our regular meeting. First on the agenda is open house discussion.
All right. I was just going to quick recap our Easter egg hunt that we did last weekend. Here's a picture of the 4 and under age group. As you can see over here, it kind of note for next year is to make the entrance or the beginning of it to be a little bit longer. We guesstimated between 600 to 650 people showed up for it, which was awesome. Thank you, 3, for attending. We also did a coloring contest. So this is people voting here. And then we had an Easter bunny taking photos and mingling with all the kids. So that was kind of fun. So this parking lot here we filled the Central Park parking lot, and Dayton Elementary filled also. So
Awesome.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it was really good. For my first event, I think it went well. Of course, there's some takeaways, but it was good. So that brings me to the next big event that we're having is the open house. I just wanted to quick overview and get some feedback from you before I keep planning. So on the right side is what what you asked me to print off for the Parks and Trails. It shows proposed Parks and Trails and current Parks and Trails. So I will print off those to have for handouts. And on the left is kind of a running list of the tables that we have so far for the event. West Metro Water Alliance, I know, Doug, you mentioned having a watershed table. I was just curious if you wanted something in addition to that, or is that going to cover that for?
Either the Water Alliance or the Watershed, either one, whichever you would prefer.
Okay, we have the West Metro Water Alliance. She came last year. Her name was Jessica, and I heard that she did a very good job. So
She does a very good job, yep.
perfect. And then I got some of the tree owners manuals from John, so we'll hand those out.
Yes.
Was there anything else?
Are we going to have a table? Parks?
Yeah. So public
Wait,
works,
public
parks,
works.
utilities.
Oh, it's in
streets.
there in Parks. Cool.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, if there was anything else that you can think of that you want me to source information from, before the next meeting. I think it would be nice to know now so that I can plan. Or any questions about it?
I think that sounds good.
Who's you all going to attend, or are you not decided yet?
I'll be there.
I will not be there.
I'll
May
be there.
22nd.
I'll be there.
TBD if I'm in town or not.
Sure.
I will be there if I'm not.
Okay.
If I am in town.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
It runs over to me so quickly.
On to the good stuff.
So tonight I just want to go over a couple of things here. There was a presentation that we put together for the council at the last council meeting to get approval to get the bids and documents set, ready to go out to bid. There were some changes since you've last seen the concept plans. There's some changing in the budget numbers and stuff like that, so hopefully I can explain it in a way that you're going to understand it here. I've taken from the big sheet and just distilled the numbers down to the bigger numbers in the grey bars. If you need more detail on what is included in those costs, it's all in the big sheet there. So we'll start with Area 21. This is a revised concept after the discussion at the last meeting and taking into account the comments from the residents. We're going to be going with the double pickleball court, a full basketball court with 4 goals, sand volleyball, the playground equipment, the shelter around the playground equipment, the informal soccer. What I've done in the packet here is we're looking at this as, I'm going to look at this as 2 projects, but look at the costs at the same time, so you get an idea of where the numbers are. Because when we budgeted this, there's 2 years apart, and we budgeted 2024 was 500,000, and then 2026 was 600,000 for the completion of the park. But as this has turned out, the more expenses in the northern part of this project, which obviously we didn't know when we put the numbers together for the CIP. So it's just the way that the master plan has played out. So bear with me as we go through these numbers, but I think we will be looking at the whole thing, so it will include the native prairie open space and the ball field in this south part of the project as well, plus all the trails going through there. So these are the numbers that I pulled together from your sheet there. The phase 1 and phase 2 is what I'm calling it. For phase 1, for the general erosion control, earthwork, the north parking lot, playground and seating area, double pickleball court, sand volleyball court, site furniture, the full basketball court with 4 goals, bituminous trails, irrigation and landscaping. The estimated subtotal on that is 953,000. With our contingency in there, that part of the project comes in at $1,143,798. We currently have funding from the CIP of Trails Fund and Water Irrigation. For irrigation is 647,000. So there's a significant mismatch on there. By comparison, the phase 2 is a smaller budget amount on there. The project estimate is $309,000 with a $61,000 contingency. So the project bid there is $370,944. Our funding sources. If we upgrade the baseball there to be a CDA quality pitch, there'll be an additional $138,500 estimate for doing that. We would be looking to CDAA to fund those additional costs. So the projected costs, including all the alternates and the contingency, is $537,000 on there, and we have total funding for this part of $806,140. So looking at the combined costs of those two things, the total estimated cost for both phases is $1,680,000. We have total city funding of $1,315,000. The additional funding from CDAA at $138,500, leaving a total possible funding of $1,453,640, which means that we're underfunded on the two total projects by $227,000. We reduce the contingency to 10% from the 20%. We will save $140,000. And there's a potential of a playground grant, which we applied for yesterday. They've upped that to $100,000. So there's a potential we could get the $100,000. But if we don't, then we would have to make some decisions on what we would have to cut from there, some of the alternates. So I think from the last time we spoke, and it was all doom and gloom because we didn't have enough money to do everything, and it was a pretty bad scenario. But when you look at it this way, I think there's a lot more doable. I think it's a lot more of a positive outlook. So this is what was presented to the council mostly. The total estimated cost wasn't on there. I just did that today, trying to make it more comparable. So the council did say go ahead and get the bids and documents done, get those ready, including all of these elements in there. We are not going to work on the phase 2 at this time because legally I don't believe we can because we don't own that property. We're just working off the engineer's estimates here.
So are we trying to lock that money away? That's why it's included, or?
That money is already in the CIP already. That's already allocated for 2026, but I think that the council would be okay with us moving some of that money from the 2026 project into the 2024 project. Okay, moving on.
Can I ask you a question?
Hold on.
Yes, sir.
Don't jump.
They've got questions first. Yes, that's the next.
I just want you to go back to the slide. Still reading your numbers.
Oh, I'm going to. It's not going fast enough for me. Yeah.
Go ahead, Gary.
I was just wondering if you could explain to me the contingency, like changing it from 20 to 10.
So
Can you
the
just
contingency-
explain what it is for me
So
so
the
I can
contingency,
understand?
we always carry a contingency for the unknown, unforeseen things that happen on site, like bad soil types, or if you hit a problem where you're putting down your blacktop, and you have to make changes like that. It's on-site changes, unforeseen changes. We normally carry 20% at this stage because we don't know what is going to happen with the bids. Once we get more comfortable and once the project moves on, then we can reduce that contingency fund. I don't like to see it go too low, just in case we do hit some other things. It's better to have money to put back at the end of the day. Or, with the alternates, if we find that we have extra money at the end and we can add in another alternate because the project's going well, then we can use that contingency money for those.
Okay, thank you.
I guess, was that the Hennepin County Youth Grant for the playgrounds? Okay.
Can we use the trails money for this as well?
Second?
Can we use the trails money, the
I think it's in there.
87,000? Is it? I can't see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You looked under every cushion.
So I just wanted to make a clarification. So you've got the city funding. The funding that's coming from has been given by the developer, correct?
Correct.
So it's not like tax dollars are being
No,
used for
this
this.
is all park dedication
The
fees.
people that bought those homes, the money
Yeah.
that they paid towards their homes are going towards this park in their development.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely correct.
So, to my previous question about phase 2 and why we're approving it and you're earmarking money for it,
Correct.
we don't technically have that money yet? It's in the
There
26
is money
budget
in the
as they
fund.
build out part of the houses.
There is money in the fund currently for that, but technically we haven't got the money from those developments because they haven't been started yet. So we haven't got the the funding from that, but we do have funding in the fund for this
Okay.
project. We would just take it out and replenish it once we get that funding in.
And again, that area looks to be growing more in the next, right, there's going to be plenty more.
Yeah.
It'll be about 1,000 homes, and that it's serving this park. This park will serve about 1,000
And
homes.
how many houses is it right now? Is it
300 or so,
Yeah,
right? How many on
something like
Brayburn Trails? One.
Yeah.
So there's potential for even more
Oh, yeah.
with another 700 houses over the next couple of years.
I think that part of the reason it's spread over 2 years is because we're pre-predicting that,
Yeah.
I believe, but we'd have to ask that.
Yeah. And I think that we may be under-predicting on that a little bit.
Probably.
Do we have a guesstimate on how long it would take to complete phase one?
Phase one, looking at just a rough timeline that we've seen, it would be finished in 2025, probably summer of 2025.
If we broke ground this summer?
Yeah.
So it'd be a full year.
Yeah, that's how it's looking at the moment.
It'd be one whole building season, but that means we'd have to start in like 2 weeks.
Right.
So,
Right.
Which we won't,
yeah,
yeah.
which we won't.
So it'll be this spring and summer the following. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, so we're looking to break ground in there early July, is where it's looking at the moment. So it's a little bit later than I would have hoped, but that's where we're at. So
Was there any discussion on the color of the play equipment?
the colour of the play equipment, yeah, we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
I'll call out, there's also some water fund usage for the irrigation, so that wouldn't come on a Parks Fund either.
Yeah.
And then I think the other reason why it's important for us to know we're planning for the south side is because we don't want to pull all of the money for 2026 up now and have nothing for the south side of the property. So we need to have a general guesstimate of what we're going to need to set aside for that, which is why we're pushing for the, look at it holistically, even though we're only going to do about half of the land development this year.
So if it's a 5-year window, guesstimating, are we putting a % in there increased of cost for things because things go up over time?
I would love it if we did that with all of our CIP stuff.
Just forethought.
It's a great point.
Because when we start these projects, do we lock in at all, or is it, do we get billed as we go? Like when we're going through the bid process, are we getting a, hey, this is what it's going to be, it's not going to change, or they're, hey, this went up? How does that work with our?
We'll get a bid for the work that's going to get done right away, but there's some contingency in case there are other issues unforeseen, but the pricing's locked in.
Okay.
So if they needed an extra, I don't know, dump truck of black dirt for whatever reason, that's what the contingency would be used for.
Marty, could you just remind me, what are we doing on the athletic complex? Are we bankrolling any money for that at all?
There has been money going away for that. I don't know exactly where the fund sits at the moment, but we're continuously looking for that land, for that project, but I don't know, we haven't really got any feedback on that yet. There are a couple of potential things out there currently, but I can't say any more than that at this stage. But there is some money, but not nearly enough to build the thing out, that's for sure. It's more for the land purchase at this time.
There's roughly about 600 set aside for that right now.
That's how much is set aside now? Right.
Have to be some creative accounting on that.
Is there CDAA money set aside as well? Are they meeting?
CDAA are interested in assisting us with that. I don't have an exact number that I can share with you about that either.
I think their assistance will come more in developing it than will be purchasing the land.
Yeah.
And they have a semi-fair point. If they help buy the land, but the city doesn't have the money to develop it, then they put all the money in and they're getting nothing out of it. And so I think the CDA is waiting for the city to buy the land so that they can step up and say, we've got some money we've been setting aside to help develop this into what we need.
Okay.
They sounded pretty comfortable or pretty certain that they were going to get some grants too, didn't they? When last time they came and met with us, that there were some things that they thought they'd be able to get qualified for.
Yeah, I think they've got some set aside, and I think they've got connections for grants, those kind of things too. So, especially
Yeah,
if
we
a
just-
complex of the size they're looking for.
We just need to make a commitment on some real estate.
70,000 an acre.
And then it's gonna take another 5 or 10 years after that to build anything out, so it's gonna be for a while. All right, continue.
Thank you. Doesn't want to work for me now. Daniel,
It
what?
was super slow for me all day, so.
Oh, there we go. Oh,
Now it's
now,
go for it.
jeez. Okay, so this is some of the information we got back from the neighbourhood meeting. I think we shared this a little bit last meeting. General park request was sand volleyball, pickleball and tennis. No dog park, no to community garden. Moved the sports courts away from the homes as much as possible. There's some interest in food truck parking, but I think we discussed that at the last meeting, and that kind of got pushed off of the schedule. Definitely want some irrigation in there, bike racks, full basketball court, change in table in the porta potty, which I'm still working on. Basketball court to double as an inline skate area, maximise open space area, shade sail preferred over pergola, natural walking paths and pollinator-friendly landscape, and the baseball. Playground specifics, they want shade elements, more plastic equipment for disabled children, and I'm not sure what that exactly means. I talked with the playground people. They've included what they need to include for ADA accessibility on the playground that they've designed. And this is only one design. I needed to get this in so I could get the grant funding out. So this is just the first one. We'll be getting a couple of other quotes in from other places. There's some zip line, toddler area, play elements, add benches along paths in the playground, inline skating area for summer hockey. And then the park commission, when we talked, these were the priorities that you put in: full basketball court with 4 goals, 2 pickleball courts, sand volleyball, then ball field and tennis courts. So this is some of the initial design work from game time. There's a tower element to it. The zip line on this one is a little bit different. As you can see in the bottom left corner, it's more of a track than a cable. This is a new thing that they're doing, so I haven't seen one of these yet. The swing area has got some ADA accessibility. There's a mother and child swing on there, and an ADA compliant swing set on there. Although it doesn't show it in these renderings, we would be putting the rubber surfacing in there, so you can push a wheelchair to the slide and those kind of areas, so it will be accessible that way. There are other elements in here. There was a request for a merry-go-round. That's the little thing in the bottom right-hand corner of the middle one at the top. I'm not sure if that's exactly what was asked for, but that's what Game Time have currently. So, like I said, this is just one part of one company that we're looking at. The other thing that was asked for was muted colours in there, and that's kind of reflected in here. It's not as bright with the olive green type colours there, and the more neutral colours on the slide equipment. So the park area is 4,400 square feet here.
So this is the first and only people to get back to you, but you've got more bids,
No,
more designs coming in?
I just reached out because I knew I could pressure them into getting the grant back, the quote back in time for me to get the grant application out. So this will be going out to a couple of other companies to do the same thing for us. So I just wanted to share this. And this is just an overview. There will be, top right there will be a seated area there with a shade in there of some description. That's not been finalised yet, and the playground equipment people won't be supplying that. That will be something else from a different people that will be done through the contractor. But we will, once we find out what that's going to look like, we'll obviously share that with everybody. So that's just the layout, and then I broke down the costs into the bigger units here. The different playground elements there, the zip line track, safety surfacing, freight, installation. The grand total is 125,000 on that. for that playground.
Is the zip line going to be fast enough?
I don't know, we can put some grease on there, I think.
Is it gonna be a maintenance nightmare?
No. The zip lines that we've got in place aren't that bad. We've had a little bit of vandalism on them, on the seats and some of that stuff, people trying to cut the rope and stuff like that, but they're kind of expensive to replace those items. I think the seat and the rope was about $3,500 to replace that, but they're pretty hardy. We've replaced one cable because there were some older kids jumping on it and it just stretched the cable until it started coming apart, so we had to replace that. But other than that, they're not too bad to maintain at all. No different to the rest of the playground, really. They're pretty robust. So yeah.
So long as they're fast enough and long enough.
Well, I don't. This is as long as that one in there is as long as we could get into that area, because there's safety. You have to have safety zones around each element. So as you can see here, the safety zones can't interact with each other. So the red dotted line on the outside is the safety zones that all those pieces of equipment have to have around them. So that's what limits the amount of equipment that you can squeeze into a box.
So that's why they jammed 6 fun things to do on that tower area?
That's generally the way that the towers go, that they try to include as many elements on there as they can.
I don't have kids, so is that safe? Are there kids running all over chaos, whatnot, or?
I mean, it's
A lot safer than it
chaos
used to be.
regardless.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is pretty standard though. I mean, because
Okay.
like the one we have in our neighborhood, we literally have like 3 layers of kids on top of each other at all times.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not like not safe, but it's probably safer than having anyone by the people that are on the zip line.
Fair enough.
So I think that's just.
The one,
Are we limiting this? I mean, Marty, there's a lot of space in this park. Are we limiting the size more than we need to? Like, there's no shortage of space, right?
no, I had the same thought myself. Could we make the box bigger? And we could certainly look into that. I don't know why this came out this size, and that would be a poor question. I don't
Even
know.
if you separated out the zip lines, I'm not saying because it's a lot more rubber to put down. And you just had a separate rubbered area just for the zip line. There's parks we've gone to before that to have that.
Yeah, we would have to put a container for it and stuff like that, just to contain all the surfacing in there that you would need. But we could certainly look into something like that, see what that looks like.
Marty, with the other zip lines that we have in the city right now, have we had much for issue with safety or no?
No, not that's been reported to me, no. I haven't heard anything. Only when the one got broken, kids were trying to use it, and then we went up there and secured it, and so it wasn't accessible.
They're not that far off the ground. When
No.
they're on them anyways, they're pretty close to the ground. And kids bounce at that age, so.
No, we've had a very large neighborhood discussion about someone putting a zip line in their backyard
Oh, really?
over the water, and it involved
Sitting
you
there.
know that and you know that
Over the
it's a
water.
whole nother. And the big talk was just because one of our president of our neighborhood, she's a lawyer, and she's like, hey, like this is on the boundary of what's city land and what's your personal land and what's neighborhood land. And if something happens to someone from a live, she's just looking from a legal perspective. And so that's why we're both kind of like zipline. It's been that big neighborhood conversation.
But these zip lines that are at the parks are,
These aren't going as fast as that one.
and they're much better if you go and look at them.
This isn't MacGyvered together in someone's backyard.
Yeah.
These meet certain.
No, and I've seen the one over there. It looks great. So I just was curious to see if we've had anything come up. I figured it wasn't an issue. So
My 2-year-old and 4-year-old have a great time on them. So
perfect.
Okay. So that's playground equipment. So that's all I have on that area, 21. The next one up is Iron Gardens. This is a very small park. which is basically going to be updating the landscape and adding some trees for privacy around the perimeter. There is a basketball court shown on here, but that's not part of the project for this year. And in some initial discussions with some of the residents there, they're not in a big hurry to get a basketball court in there. So
There's one walking distance from.
Second?
There's one walking distance from this park.
yeah,
So
yep. So it's just a very simple idea. The playground equipment is already in there. We're just adding a seating area, irrigation, and landscaping. Like I said, a little bit of regrading in there, so it's easy to mow and not scalp everything off with the mower and stuff. So this is a very small project. The current subtotal was 69,000, contingency of 13,000 on there. Project total is estimated at 83,000. We have 50,000 in the park CIP, nothing in the trails fund because the trails were already in there, and then the irrigation again coming from the water fund. It's a total funding of 80,000. We are over budget by about 3,000, but again that will be made up through the contingency, I think.
I have a question on this one. This land right next to it is more land. Do we own the land next to it too? Was that gifted to us as well?
It should be, yes.
Are we irrigating all of it?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're irrigating half of it because it would look really weird.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking.
Well, that's how we're in this situation, because the HOA was going to maintain half of it, and the half without the HOA was who knows who's
Yeah.
going to do it. So,
Thank you.
yeah, we would do the whole thing there.
Okay.
So that was quite straightforward. Elsie Stevens, this has changed quite a lot since you last saw it. This is a revised plan, and staff took a couple of liberties here to add some things to this other than what you guys had suggested in the form of additional parking in the yellow area there. So we were originally just going to do the decorative gate, the performance stage, complete that bridge, and the sign. I think those were the four elements that we were going to look at, and some irrigation. We did have some more money left in the budget, so we were going to look at doing some additional parking. You guys had asked for a picnic shelter and sand volleyball court.
We did.
And some of those additional trails there.
we did talk about it. I don't know that we ever voted on it, but we did talk about it.
Yeah, I thought we just looked at or focused on the items in red, nothing to the northwest there. And you're right, we did talk about it, I do remember that. But
Yeah.
to keep it within budget, it was everything that was circled in red.
Well, this was under budget at the end of the day. So if we go, this is the additional seating around the stage area that was talked about, and additional stage performance area, and a fabric cover for the roof there. At this stage, that may change to be something different. But if we look at the costings here, I think it's all on one sheet. So with erosion control, the expanded performance stage and seating, the North Bridge, park entry sign, the entry gate, and irrigation, that came in at 545,000 with a contingency of 109. The project base bid was 654. Total funding we have for this is 893,000. Some money from the facilities, which was for the signage. Parks was 500,000. There was 105,000 from last year's CIP for the bridge. There's 228,000 from trails, and we're going to use some irrigation money for the water irrigation from the water fund. So our total funding on there was 893,620. So we are $240,000 under the base estimate bid. So that gives us an opportunity to explore where we want to do a picnic shelter on East Parking, sand volleyball, West Parking area, or a combination of those, depending on what the bids come in. And the reason staff wanted to do some of the blacktop work there was because a couple of projects that we put out to bid have come back really well on blacktop pricing. So this might be a good opportunity to do that if the prices come in right. There'll be alternates on the bid documentation. So If they don't come in that way, then we don't have to do those things. But I'm sure that we can do, one or two of these other alternates on there that were shown there.
I think the fact that we had some people show up this past weekend for the Easter egg hunt, and we ran out of parking. I think it was
Yeah, I was gonna
maybe
note that.
under talked about, but we ran out of parking, so having additional parking in a place where it's looking to hold events is worth considering.
Yes,
That's awesome.
definitely.
Can we look at the drawing again? Thank you.
We were always going to do something to honor Wynn Stevens. And I have a feeling that's dropped by the wayside.
Well, I think in the purchase document there was something that you have to have some signage there that with specific word in for Elsie Stevens. There's some documentation there saying this park was built in memory of Elsie Stevens or something along those lines.
That's very unfortunate.
But the signage will say it, right?
There's got to be on there somewhere. I'm not sure where that's exactly going to go just yet. I don't think there's a specific thing saying where it has to go, but there has to be some recognition of that fact.
Is there a memorial plaque already down there, like a bronze one?
I don't recall seeing one.
Do you have something in mind, Doug, for
Yeah.
Wynn specifically? Because the signage only calls out Elsie. Is that what you're referring to, is that there wasn't something for Wynn?
Well, I think that Wynn had an awful lot to do with that property and
Sure.
the city of Dayton. I think somehow we have to acknowledge that. At one time, we were going to have a military dedication of some sort in part of the park. I thought it was in the eastern part. And so the conversation was around possibly doing something to
Veteran
honor-
themed.
to honor Wynn
Sure, and his service.
that way. So I understand that there's some rift between Wynn Stevens and the nephew or whoever was running the show here. But I still think that we need to honor an individual that had an awful lot to do with that property. And that was Wynn Stevens and Elsie as well. But somehow, I think that we need to address what we're going to do with Wynn Stevens.
And I know that you had talked some time ago about a veterans park and stuff like that. Is this the site that you were thinking of for that?
I think eventually we're going to have to do something with the Veterans Park.
I didn't know if this was where you were thinking of putting that in as part of this development, because I don't think it's identified on the master plan that we're using currently. But that's not to say that we can't adapt it to incorporate something like that if that's the Park Commission's direction.
I think another conversation with Mega, whatever,
Magnus?
Magna, is that Magnus?
Oh, okay, yeah, I was gonna say there's a number of veterans organizations in town we could potentially talk to or work with. They might have ideas. Magnus Veterans Foundation is
Yeah.
probably the
That
most
might be-
well-known one.
And I think that
Discuss it.
I think Teresa reached out to them at one time to talk to them about a memorial, a veterans memorial park as well. But I don't think that we got very much feedback from them at that time. That's not to say that we can't reach out again. But if we want to have a bigger discussion on this, we can put it on as an agenda item.
Yeah, I've had a conversation with those folks, but it wasn't very positive. I don't know that they even knew who was on first base. So maybe they have firmed things up a little bit better.
Do we know the history of the gentleman? What branch he served in? Anything like that? Or just that he served?
I do not know.
I think that might be helpful too, because I think of like what Champlin does. They've got the tank there,
Yeah.
right? So if he served in a tank battalion, then that seems fitting to try to line something like that up. Usually that's worked with the VFW as well, because they have better access to those sort of pieces. So it's definitely, I think, an opportunity. I think the discussion should be is, do you want a Veterans Park, or do you want a special nod to Elsie and Wynn at this park? Because in my mind, they're two different things. Does that make sense? I don't think, this is Matt's opinion. No one else is, but I don't know if this is the Veterans Park, where there could be a place to put that, or we plan for that in the future, or if we just want to nod to those individuals, then that seems maybe more fitting. Which I think is the question you're trying to get at, Marty, is do you want a Veterans Park? Or do you just want to nod to the individuals somewhere in the park? Because I think that's two different levels of commitment, both from a land space and a financial resource piece,
Right.
I would say.
I think we need to stir up the military community a little bit more in town to see where they want to, whether or not they want to do anything.
Yeah, because I've never heard anything from any other veterans in town other than yourself. You know, mention of Memorial Park, the only person I've heard it from is you at this stage. But that's not to say that, you know, there isn't a need for it. But I think that we should have a conversation about it and think about a location and what we want it to be like, and if it's a necessity for us, if it's something that, you know, we need to do.
All right.
There's a good opportunity for collaboration in that too, between the veterans organizations that are in town, the veterans themselves, the Boy Scouts of America, the Eagle Scouts have to do an annual project, so I've seen Eagle Scouts do projects with the veterans, except they have to raise money for that, and so they'll work with people like Magnus and veterans, the VFW, to raise money for the benches, and they'll physically build the benches or something like that to help kind of give input to that as a nod as well. So it's probably a really good opportunity for collaboration if we want to do that in the city. We should figure out where the correct place is to do it.
Yeah.
All right.
I think we've talked a lot about doing signage in our parks too, what the history of the location is. I think we'll make sure to include Elsie and Wynn in that, if nothing else.
I do have access to a lot of information about that property, and you know, stuff that went on there from the nephew. He's got a whole library of stuff, and there's a book about Wynne Stevens as well that has got a lot of history about what he did and, you know, all the things that went on down there and what he was involved in. So, you know, certainly we can find the information that we want to put in there.
Is that something you'd be able to share, or is it just like a box of old documents somewhere?
I think he's got a big archive of this stuff. You know?
Okay.
So he'd be willing to share some of that information with us, no problem. I've had several conversations with him about that.
All right.
Okay, so that's basically the things. Oh, I'm done. That's basically all the things that we're going out to. Well, we're putting the bid documentation together. Paul's working on that at the moment. We're planning on having that back in front of you guys 4th of June, that meeting, so you can review that and just see that we're doing what is expected. Then hopefully we can get that approved by the council on the 11th the following week, and then get that out to bid and then see what the real numbers are, so we can start making some decisions after that.
Will we have the bids back, the actual bids back before the June Parks meeting?
No, the bid documentation will be 4th of June. It won't be going out to bid until the 11th, the following week. And then construction is likely to start where it's currently at. Construction somewhere around the 17th of June.
Sorry, so we'll
17th of July.
get the stuff back from Paul in front of the commission in May,
Yeah?
right?
No, June.
He needs 2 months?
Yeah, it takes 2 months for Paul to pull the documentation together and work with the watershed and the SWEP people, get the documentation done from the civil engineering for storm ponds, that kind of thing. It's a long time.
So we won't actually send this out to bid then until
Bidding
June
window would be
11th.
for,
The bids won't be back in front of them until July. It has to be approved by council.
yeah,
So you're talking the second week of July. So you're not going to
Yes.
start work until August.
no, they'll start work in the middle of July.
Okay.
That's the plan at the moment. I'm hoping that Paul can work a little bit quicker and we can get this to, trying to fit in with the meetings is the difficult part because these guys are only here once a month and you guys are every 2 weeks. So trying to fit it in to get to these guys so they can approve it, so then you can get to approve it and then we get it out. That's kind of, so even if Paul gets it in, the next he's not going to have it done for the 7th of May, which is the next Park Commission meeting. So then that moves it out to June.
When will he actually have it done? It's not the 7th of May. When will it actually be done?
I think Paul is predicting that he's looking at May 30th. I'm trying to push him to have
So
it.
it wouldn't matter if they met once a month, twice a month, or every week, because it's still going to be the week after they meet that it'll be done.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, well, I don't want it to, because what I was going to say is, well, maybe the commission's open to meeting on a third Tuesday instead of the first Tuesday
Yeah.
if Paul can get done in time. But Paul is the delay in this, not the work
Well-
that Paul is doing. I don't want to call Paul as the individual. The work that Paul is
Yeah.
working on, it takes 2 full months.
yeah.
Okay.
That's what he's telling me, and that's what I'm going with. I'm trying to work around his schedule. I've been going down a bunch of different rabbit holes trying to find a way to maybe have these guys change a meeting so we can make that work. But
Is he delivering all 3 of them at the same time? Couldn't he focus on one and receive
Well, let's
that
see
in
what
May and then?
we might well do that. That might be part of the contract at the end of the day. So
Because Ion is not that big.
yeah, I know Iron's not that big, but
Yeah, it could be a good
They'd be
project.
thrilled to see some progress on that.
Right?
They're,
it would be
they're long overdue.
it might be different parts of the project. I mean, you might
Sure.
want to get the blacktop all done this year, and so you get the good pricing this year and whatever. So there are going to be some variables on this yet, but I am trying to speed it up as much as I can.
It'd be awesome to see some incremental progress.
I know. It's not what you want to hear, Matt. It's not what I want to
If
hear.
major
either.
corporations worked at the speed government works, we'd have half the GDP in this country. I'm just
I
saying.
know. I know.
Like it's sad how slow some of this stuff takes. It's not you, Marty. I know it's not you. I'm not blaming you. It's my constant beef.
I know. I know. It's
Knowing that, you guys should have started 2 months ago.
well.
Right?
Well,
This
then we
is a
lost a
planning
month.
year.
We lost a month because Paul couldn't do the presentation of the concepts in January because he had sick family and they had COVID going through the house, so that pushed it back to February for the meeting here. So we lost a month there, so that pushes it back. So, it's just a knock-on effect with all this stuff. But if I can make it work a little quicker and I have to change your meeting, would you be okay with that, to do that, potentially?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
All in
Big-
favor?
I mean, we all have schedules and stuff that pops up in
I
here,
know.
so
I know.
is there ever a possibility to ever do it like on Zoom or Teams or something like that? Like, let's
Yeah,
say if
for
it's
sure.
a random whatever.
But
and
can you vote on?
There's
Can
a
we
lot
vote
of
on-
different. You have so. Let me just do
yeah,
this.
there's rules.
You have to be in a public location. It has to be stated in the meeting beforehand. You have to be accessible to the public. So you can't like take it from your den. You'd have to be somewhere
Like
where
at
the
the
public
library.
could physically lay eyes on you if they wanted to. The
Join
library,
you.
hotel lobby, walking around the park, wherever. It has to be a set address, but you got to be somewhere where people can.
I mean, it happened during COVID, but were there exceptions? Because I know I saw addresses, but those were just people were at home.
Yeah, there were different rules during COVID.
That makes sense. Okay.
If there's majority here and a person is out, it wouldn't matter as much.
That person would not be able to vote unless they follow the rules.
Correct.
Yes. You only need 3 of you to be here to move things along, so I'd say pay attention to your emails. You see something from Marty or Danielle, read it quick.
Okay.
Okay.
So we discussed the May 7th meeting, we could meet at any time, right? We could call an emergency meeting
That won't be.
if necessary.
I don't know if that'd be May 7th or what just yet. It might be more like June.
Okay.
You might have to move that one in June,
Yeah, as of now, it's May 7th and June 4th. Is that?
unless you get an email from us. And
Okay. So where are we? Have we beat the Park Commission meetings to death? D?
Are there enough of you that are going to be quorum on the 7th?
Yeah.
I'll be
Yeah.
here.
and then for that meeting, have you got any topics that you want included on the agenda?
Area 21, ions.
Uh,
One of the three?
Yeah, well, we'll see where that is, but yeah, I hear you, David.
I have received an enormous amount of pressure in the last 2 weeks for a pickleball facility in Rivers Bend Park.
Okay.
How big is enormous?
Pardon me?
How, like, where did it come from? Or where's the pressure coming from? Is it from a group or?
Well, my wife and 2 children,
I was gonna guess that.
but there's a crowd, I think it's the former fire chief was Kraus.
Oh,
Is it Kraus?
Dotseth
Yeah,
is over there, and then
Kraus
Greg
is over there.
Cruz.
Cruz over there.
Greg Cruz is over there too. Greg Cruz and Gary Dotseth are both former fire, and they're over there.
Yeah, it must, one of them
One of them.
has been pressuring my wife to get a pickleball court put in Rivers Bend.
So that's how things work around here. Is it put the pressure on the
The
wife?
public forum is open to the public. I would just let them
They
know.
only need $106,000 donated to the city and they can do it.
Yeah.
Just have them write the check.
Out the cash.
Well, if we need a fundraiser, I can take that to the public as well.
There you go.
That's a lot of baking, Doug.
You're right.
Those are some good cookies.
Might take a couple of years for that, but if you could put that in your planning, I would appreciate it.
Okay, well, these funds are coming from park dedication fees, so
Yep.
it won't be funded from those funds. It has to come from a separate funding source.
All right.
But I can make a note of it, Doug. I can't guarantee there's going to happen.
You can also remind them that there's 2 of them in less than 2.5 miles from their home that they have public access to a public park.
Why does that make any difference?
I'm just saying if they don't want to wait until the money's there, that
Yeah.
there's 2 of them within 2.5 miles. And I know it's 2.2 miles from my house to your house because my parents live right down the block from you and I've mapped it out. So I know it's less than 2.5 miles. And there's River Hills has a pickleball court with a private parking area right now too. Like it's like only used for pickleball.
Well, that would be wonderful.
But it has to be.
And
Bend,
and
like
you guys have
contingency
approved a
on the-
trail, so if they want to be extra healthy, they could bike from your place down the new trail that'll be built over to Rivers Hill. They can get more exercise and then bike back.
And you want me to take that back to this?
To your wife? Yes, please take it back to your
They'd
wife.
be appreciative.
They're always good. This is a good option.
So that's pretty good. I think it's pretty good to have 2 within that short of a 2 within a pretty easy bike ride. We can't put one in every neighborhood, so maybe that's a message to send. You know what I mean? Like we just can't do it in every single one.
We just redid that park, didn't we? Recently, last 5 years.
2015.
Yeah, 7 years.
It's got a nice zip line. And some
Well,
of the cool
I'll take it back
swings.
to them and tell them that they can't have everything.
Or that they can have 2 within 2.5 miles.
Yeah, they just gotta get on the bike.
They can have
Yeah,
lots of
it's-
exercise.
Half full.
Healthy day.
My proposal ran on deaf ears.
Oh, we heard you. We gave you options.
Unless the commission wants to motion that go in front of the city council, that should be added to the CIP.
That's the option,
Yeah, we gotta get in the CIP, it has to be funded, the city's gotta fund it, city council would have to approve the funding for it. Did you win the Powerball last night? You can just make the donation.
Or what if I had it?
Directed donation.
All right, I give up. What's next on the agenda?
Adjournment.
Real quick,
Motion to adjourn?
before we adjourn, has the pickup cleanup day been advertised? Is a date picked for that? The city, like,
It's the first Saturday in May
Okay.
every year.
okay, cool.
And we'll be going out there.
I know we talked about doing like a cleanup day the last couple of years, but we always kind of miss, I mean, April's not always the best month with everything being soggy and wet anyway, but like,
I did send out to neighborhood HOAs, and they sent
Okay.
it to their contacts. That I believe it was April. It was the Saturday after Earth Day.
okay,
That they can all get together and clean up parks and trails, their
Cool.
neighborhoods, whatever. And they can contact me if they want to for the city to pick up the trash bags at
Awesome.
a certain spot. So
What we were going to do is have a central location
Yeah.
where they can dump
Perfect.
everything, and we'll just go through with a trailer and pick it up the day after or a couple of days after, whatever it is.
can we throw that out on the city page too for like, we don't have an HOA, but we have Wildwood Springs Park, which, you know, gets traffic all winter, it might need to clean up when the snow melts.
yeah, I believe, I'm not sure if we put it on.
Or maybe
I'll
it
talk
wasn't,
with
and I
the
didn't
council.
see it, if it was, I apologize.
No, I will make sure we have something out
Yeah.
there.
But we don't want to get into the situation where we're picking up stuff from
Yeah, I get that for sure.
every household
So-
going down the street.
So maybe it's not worth it, and,
But if you got somebody who's central and organises it, then
Sure.
that would be good.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
spread the word, because that would be good.
cool.
So when is that pickup date?
Yeah, when it, you were saying,
I have to look at my calendar. It's
Is it the 27th?
Saturday after Earth Day, 27th.
Do you want each neighborhood to reach out to you, or do you want us to put it on the edges, or how do you want it done?
Yeah, coordinate
Reach out
with
to you.
me just
Okay.
so that we can make sure that the guys can pick it up
Get
with
a
their
trailer
stuff.
and know
So
what we need to pick it up with. There's a lot of it, we'd have to bring a tandem round or something like that.
The stuff they're gonna find.
Well, like with ours, Tim and I normally organize the whole, we pick up all the stuff, and then we just go to the dump.
Okay.
But if you're willing to do it, or.
Yeah.
We would, okay,
Why not?
awesome.
perfect. Yeah, I don't have access to those neighborhood Facebook pages a lot of the times too. So those are good to get the word out if you live in all different neighborhoods.
So Brad, if we leave that there for 3 weeks, will you just take it to dump anyway?
And anything else that accumulates?
Very good. Anything else we need to discuss? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
My motion?
Second?
I'll second.
We are adjourned.